What's going on, you guys? Welcome on back to the channel. Now, we finally reached the chapter that I always knew we were going to reach. We finally reached Samura sacrificing himself for Chihiro and for the greater good of Kagurabachi. Now, I called this a while ago, though. I predicted that Samura was going to sacrifice himself ever since his introduction into the narrative because he just feels like that archetype, right? Ever since he was introduced, it felt like he was that archetype. And then when we found out his backstory with Iori and then him getting that resolution to his character and wanting to be a good father again, like the writing was all there on the walls, right? It felt like the most telegraphed sacrifice that I felt like I've ever seen, but it still impacted me emotionally. That's what's great about Hokuzono. But why exactly did the sacrifice still affect me, even though I saw it coming a mile away? Let's go ahead and talk about it. So, first thing that I really liked about this chapter is we got to see Soga and Samura kind of have a relationship before all this even started, right? We got to see a flashback with the two of them, and we got to see Soga before he was tainted by the war. I like this so much because it shows that Samura knew who Soga was before all this went down, right? We get to see a version of Soga that isn't tainted by war, that isn't tainted by the Magatsumi. He's not tainted by any of that. He's just somebody who's fighting for the greater good of the world, right? But when the war happens, all that flips on its head. But Samura is one of the only people that know that Soga was actually a good person. So he wants to be able to lift that curse, but he knows that he can't do it. So what does he do? He's passing it along to the next generation. He's passing it along to Chihiro, who he then tells Soga, Chihiro is going to dispel your curse, like he did for me. I love that so much because it shows just how important Samura and Chihiro's relationship really was. It's so good. And then when you get to see that Chihiro has been watching this so intently, even though Chihiro is probably going through such unimaginable grief and emotional turmoil on the inside, he's still watching every single moment of this fight. And why is he doing that? He's doing that so he can learn everything that he wasn't able to learn during this first encounter. In this first encounter with Soga, he was pretty much just fighting to stay alive, right? He was just defending himself to stay alive at that point, just to prevent like any like one hit KO moves on him. So he was essentially just defending the entire fight in vain at the end of the day because he still got stabbed through the heart. So what's he doing now? He's studying. He's studying Soga's tells. He's studying everything he does with his sword. Everything that you could possibly imagine Soga to be doing. Chihiro is absorbing that information, right? He's absorbing everything that he needs to learn in order to fully defeat Soga the next time around, right? But I don't think that fight's going to happen for a while. I think that's going to be near the tail end of Kagurabachi at this point. So I love this. This was just so good to me. Like they crushed it. They just Hokuzono is a master at his craft, man. And dude, when you see like the intense look that Chihiro has when it's like a zoom in shot of him, like you can tell he's holding back so many different emotions, so many different complex emotions, hate, anger, rage, but then you also see like grief and sadness all in that one panel of the zoom up shot of his eye. That is powerful, that is gripping, and that's one of the best things that I've seen Hokuzono do. Like you can tell he's going through it emotionally. He's going through the ringer, but he's still choosing to sit there and watch. And that's what I like about it. And I also like too that even though Chihiro essentially became a non-factor, what I like though is that he's still an active bystander. My least favorite thing about like Shonen Jump stories is when the protagonist kind of gets taken out of the fight and they don't do anything for a while, right? They kind of just go away for a couple episodes or a couple chapters, and then they come back and then they have a power buff. What I like here is that doesn't happen. Like, Chihiro gets stabbed through the heart, and then he basically just has to watch everything that goes on. But what I like is that instead of jumping back into the fight, which would have been like the obvious thing for a Shonen Jump series to do, he's like, you know what? No, I'm going to sit back and I'm going to watch everything that Soga does. I'm going to learn every tell. I'm going to learn every technique he uses with his sword. I'm going to see how he uses his sword. I'm going to see how he uses his techniques. And I'm going to absorb everything. Everything that I need to possibly learn in order to take him down the next time I fight him. So that way Samura's sacrifice is not in vain. I love that so much because it shows that even in this darkest moment of his life, he still has this calm rationale in order to think of the future, think of that next fight. Like, that's why Chihiro is one of my favorite protagonists in Jump, man. He's so emotionally complex with his development. Like, you don't see this in a lot of Shonen Jump series. You don't really get stuff like this. Like, any other Shonen Jump series, you would kind of see the protagonist like freak out and try to attack the villain again. But no, you see Chihiro accept what's about to happen. You see him accept Samura's death, and he just absorbs everything that he needs to learn. Now, obviously, next chapter he very well could have an emotional breakdown, but I like that he doesn't have it here. I like that he knows what he has to do. He has to absorb this information in order to give the world a chance for the next time around. That's what I like. That's what I think is so great about this encounter. Now, obviously, because of the sacrifice, they lose. But what I also like though is Iori. Iori has now essentially been set up as the main heroine now of the Kagurabachi. So I'm looking forward to see what they do with her. Does she actually pick up the sword? Does she pick up her father's sword? Or does she try to go back to her normal life? I think at this point her normal life is gone. And I do think she's going to pick up Samura's sword and kind of fight alongside Chihiro, keep that memory alive. Maybe Chihiro can even train her, but I'm looking forward to see what goes on with Iori. Like, I think we might see more with her next chapter and all that, but man. So after this fight too, and after obviously Samura sacrifices himself, he then declares that Chihiro is going to dispel Soga's curse just like he did for Samura. I do think that Chihiro is going to be able to do it. It's not going to be though till like the very end of the series. Like, I also personally think that we are in for a time skip, right? I've said this before, but this whole final stretch of chapters feels like the end of a Kagurabachi Part 1, right? It feels like we're wrapping everything up here and we're going to get a time skip. Now, how long will the time skip be? I'm not too sure. I think it might be a year to 2 years at most, because at the end of the chapter, we see Soga declaring that, like, he's essentially going to unleash his wrath like on the world, right? He's going to make everybody know like the threat of like the swords and all that. So he's obviously going to enact his wrath within these next couple chapters, but what does that make the world look like within the next chapter, right? What does the world look like after that? So I do think we're going to get some form of time skip in order to make it so the world really feels what's going on here, because I don't think Chihiro can like just do like a week or month time skip and then jump back into the fray and take down Soga. No. I think this is going to take that's going to take him years to really get to that point, to being able to take down Soga. And I also think he's going to be on the run, because Soga literally even says, I should have cut off his head, because now Chihiro knows everything he needs to know in order to take him down. So that makes the dynamic even more interesting, and it's good. And I feel like it could be more of like a cat and mouse type situation. So that has the potential to be very interesting in a Kagurabachi Part 2. But Kagurabachi Part 2, I could even see it being like a 5-year time skip, right? Where Chihiro is just like, I actually could see it where they do a time skip to where Chihiro could be like Rokuhira age. And that's when he sets everything right. Honestly, man, whatever Hokuzono chooses to do, I hope it just like keeps the series going as long as possible because Kagurabachi is amazing, and I cannot wait to see what they do next, man. This was phenomenal, phenomenal chapter, and I cannot wait to see how the story progresses from here. But that's gonna do it for me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I'm gonna talk to you guys next time.